What happens when the only way to survive a nightmare is to walk directly into the heart of it? In Part 3, Charlie was left completely trapped in pitch-black darkness, surrounded by towering, murderous animatronics while a giant yellow bear dragged her friend 𝕋𝕙 away. Now, completely cut off from the exit, her fight for survival reaches its terrifying climax. Charlie couldn't breathe. The glowing eyes of Freddy, Bonnie, and Chica were tightening their circle. The mechanical whining of their rusted joints sounded like a choir of dying metal. She was entirely defenseless against thousands of pounds of steel and hard plastic pressing in on her. She squeezed her eyes shut, bracing for the impact. But then, a deafening crash exploded from the other side of the dining room. Someone had hurled a heavy metal chair directly through the glass screen of an old arcade cabinet. The sudden, violent shattering of glass echoed through the massive room. Instantly, the animatronics stopped. Their heavy, robotic heads snapped away from Charlie and turned toward the noise, their programming momentarily confused by the sudden auditory trigger. It was John and Jessica. They had managed to slip out of the arcade and were waving frantically from the shadows. Charlie didn't hesitate. She threw herself through the narrow gap between Freddy and Bonnie, sliding across the checkered floor and sprinting into the darkness to meet them. "They have 𝕋𝕙," Charlie gasped, her lungs burning. "And Dave, the security guard, he has Carlton trapped somewhere underground." They knew they couldn't leave. If they ran for the police now, their friends would be dead before help arrived. They had to find the sublevel Charlie had seen on the security cameras. They crept behind the heavy, moth-eaten curtains of Pirate's Cove. There, hidden completely out of sight from the main restaurant floor, was a heavy steel door cracked slightly open. A decaying concrete staircase plunged downward into total darkness. The air pouring out of the basement didn't just smell like dust. It smelled like copper. Like old, dried blood. They slowly descended, their flashlight beams cutting through the heavy gloom. At the bottom, they found a small, claustrophobic maintenance room. And sitting in the corner, tied to heavy metal chairs, were Carlton and 𝕋𝕙. They were bruised and terrified, but alive. The group rushed forward, frantically untying the thick ropes. "We have to go, right now," Carlton choked out, his eyes darting wildly around the room. "He's still down here." Charlie shined her flashlight across the room. The yellow rabbit mask that Dave had been holding on the security feed was gone. The table was completely empty. Suddenly, the heavy steel door at the top of the stairs slammed violently shut. The sickening metallic click of a deadbolt echoed through the tiny space. They were trapped. A slow, heavy footstep scraped against the concrete right behind them. The group spun around, shining their lights into the darkest corner of the basement. Stepping out of the shadows was the massive, decaying yellow rabbit. But it wasn't moving like a stiff, programmed robot anymore. It was moving with a sickening, fluid grace. Dave was inside the suit. It was a horrific fusion of man and machine. Dave's twisted, human eyes stared out through the deep, black sockets of the smiling mascot head, gleaming with a euphoric, sadistic joy. Every single step he took was a massive gamble. The suit twitched violently, the razor-sharp spring locks pressing mere millimeters against his flesh, ready to snap and crush him at the slightest mistake. But Dave didn't care. He raised a massive, metallic hand, holding a heavily rusted hunting knife. "I survived them," Dave whispered, his voice distorted, wet, and echoing horribly from inside the plastic head. "Now, you get to join them." The yellow rabbit lunged forward, swinging the heavy blade directly at Charlie's chest. But Charlie didn't run. She remembered exactly what Dave had bragged about on the security tapes. She remembered exactly how fragile the spring locks were. As thousands of pounds of sharp steel and hard plastic bore down on her, Charlie threw her hands forward, aiming directly for the tiny mechanical latches on the suit's neck.